Welcome back to Financial Therapy. It's not just about the money. I'm personal financial planner, columnist, and financial therapist Rick Kahler. Research tells us that 90% of all financial decisions are made emotionally, not logically. For nearly 4 decades, I've been helping people make better money decisions. So what makes my financial worldview different from most financial experts? I blend the nuts and bolts of financial advice with the emotions that drive making them. Good money decisions are not just about the money. So let's get started with today's episode. Welcome back to another episode. This is part 3 of our series on financial infidelity. And there's good news. And we want to talk about how we can recover in a coupleship when there has been financial infidelity. And as we've talked about in previous episodes, financial infidelity is when we keep secrets from a partner, significant other, spouse around money that if our partner found out about, we would feel shame around or any difficult emotion. And this can be around giving and receiving money, loaning it or borrowing money, spending or saving money. In the work that I've done with couples, I have seen some pretty incredible transformations. My work with couples goes back a long, long time. As a financial planner, you largely work with couples. I don't know what percent of our clientele would be couples, but probably 75% would be couples. So I have observed some things and learned some things that can help a couple work in a positive way toward a healthier financial partnership. And a coupleship is a financial partnership, especially when you're sharing household expenses together. And definitely a marriage is a business relationship, a partnership. So let's take a look at what some of these things could be. I think the first thing is to realize while it's a coupleship problem, there's each person, each partner is 100% responsible for their 50% contribution to the partnership. So there's not a designated patient. There's not a designated person that is the problem, which would be the person, say, committing the financial infidelity. It didn't happen in a vacuum, right? Family therapy is founded on this idea that we're part of an organization, we're part of a family, and the actions of every member of that family are felt by everybody else. And so when we get into dysfunctional or disordered behaviors, that can have a cause and effect on another member. I think it's good advice. If a person is doing couples therapy, I think the couple can always benefit from also each having their own therapist and doing their own work around what they are bringing to the coupleship, right? So I think when we're looking at financial infidelity, each person needs to be doing his or her own financial recovery work. And recovery is a term that's used to recover that which was lost, building wholeness in a person. So before you can deal with money issues in a relationship, it's pretty essential that you become aware and accept responsibility for your financial behaviors that are either those causing the problem or those that are adding to the problem. Mental health person may say that the other person's acting out the issues that another partner is presenting, usually unconsciously. So, bottom line, take a look at yourself. Not much comes from focusing on the other person, saying, well, if they would change, if they weren't hiding stuff, if they wouldn't be spending or have these compulsive spending issues, then everything would be okay. The question is, what's that bring up in you? It's called a U-turn, IFIO therapy, intimacy from the inside out. It's called a U-turn. What does that bring up in you? What do you feel when you learn of that overspending? Because telling the other person that they need to change is not going to work, right? Every person is autonomous. Every person is, if change is going to happen, it's going to happen from within them, not from the other partner, bullying, guilting, manipulating, screaming at them to change. So the focus needs to begin on ourselves as a partner. So from financial therapy, an obvious place to start is finding out what your money scripts are. And we have podcasts on that. Find out what you think, feel, and believe about money. Discover what your problematic money behaviors are, whether it's overspending, underspending, hoarding, gambling, dissociation, the whole list of them. And we have a podcast on that. Start with your money history. Do a money egg on your history. Do a money atom on your family of origin. I don't think I have a podcast on those. They are in facilitating financial health. The money egg is becoming popular. The money atom is really a 2D genealogram on your family and how money worked in your family. There's a number of tools that you can use to do this. So start working on your relationship with money. So kind of in line with that, could be willing to face the possibility that addictions or compulsive behaviors might be part of the secret spending. So a gambling addiction, which is one of the financial disorders, is a real common reason for taking joint money and lying about the spending. And of course, online sports betting is just huge right now. It can be something that can be relatively hidden. Alcoholism and drug abuse can absolutely eat away at family finances, as can smoking addiction, but typically that's a hard one to hide, right? So any addiction can really be responsible for financial infidelity. Sexual addiction is another big one. So just be open to the fact that there could be something there. And I remember one of my clients that said alcoholism isn't just an emotionally destructive disease, it's also a very expensive one. Spending in itself can be an addiction. The spender can get the same highs from spending that addicts get from drugs or alcohol. Again, financial issues and especially financial infidelity is rarely about the money. And overspending or being addicted to spending, being addicted to shopping is not about the money. It typically goes much, much deeper, right? The money is just the symptom. Sometimes the secret spender just simply cannot stop, just like you can't stop drinking, or you may not stop doing a narcotic. They need professional help in long-term support. Third thing to look at is to commit to honesty and full disclosure in the relationship. Both partners need to be willing to change and to begin healing from the financial infidelity. And a commitment to honesty and full disclosure is just crucial in that. And it's crucial, and it's really hard to reestablish, right? Because already trust has been broken. The very fact that the financial infidelity has been admitted to or come to light is an inherent, what I would call disintegration of trust. And so it's really hard to rebuild, and it really takes a lot of work and a lot of honest and courageous conversation to rebuild that. Now, in the financial area, you can build in transparencies. And so you can keep those commitments. You can start looking at accounts. You can have more access. You can have agreements that there won't be credit cards unless they're joint. You could look at the financial credit report, every quarter, twice a year, at least once a year, which discloses all the open credit cards that there are. So you can build in measures, and you could work this out with a financial therapist to build in safeguards of transparency. And I'm thinking that it might be easier to do that with financial infidelity than with emotional or sexual infidelity. I could stand corrected on that. You can certainly have agreements there, but I think the money is easier to potentially see. Be interested in your thoughts on that, if any of you disagree with that. Another step in working through this is both partners agreeing to take responsibility for family finances. So it kind of follows on to what we were just discussing. This means working together to create a realistic spending plan, to monitor that plan, to meet monthly, let's say, or periodically to review the plan. To jointly solve any problems that come up. So if you got the transparency built in, you'll be able to see the problems coming up, and you both have a commitment to discuss those and work through those. So as we've said in the previous episode, it doesn't matter who's going to write the checks or who's going to pay the bills. Typically, that's going to be one partner's job or the other. What's really important is that both partners will commit to the process and commit to learning the basics of money management. Now, this can be a challenge to the partner that's been disengaged, right? And has not paid attention. And it could be that not wanting to pay attention, not feeling they're smart enough to pay attention, not having enough training and understanding to pay attention. They're just not going to change because there's financial infidelity and go, okay, right, yeah, I'm going to enjoy this. Typically, you are not going to enjoy learning about money and how it works and the basics of money management. But, once a person gets into it, they could discover, this isn't as bad as I thought it was because I just made up stories about myself that I couldn't learn this stuff, right? But it's probably important for us all to know the basics about anything we don't like to do. I don't enjoy working on cars, but I do pay attention to warning lights and know enough about the car and pay attention enough about the car to know when I should take it in and get it worked on. It's important to do that. And there's all sorts of courses and places and online things and in-person things a person can do to learn about money. So it's just really important for both partners to accept joint responsibility for managing their money. Next, I think it's important for each partner to have some money that's his or her own to spend. Working as partners and committing to financial fidelity doesn't mean turning into auditors and having to police every penny that the other person spends. So I think actually the opposite could be true, that agreeing to each partner having a sum of money that they can spend without accountability to the other partner could actually help avoid financial infidelity. So I think that it's really important for joint spending plans to include separate allowances for partners to spend money however they wish. I think I said in the very first podcast on this topic that we all have a need for control. We all have a need for autonomy. And this is a way that we can honor that need with our partners. Arguably, we are partners with our partners because at some point in time there was a lot of trust. And if we're in a partnership with somebody that we can't trust, this is inherently a big issue, right? But there ought to be an amount of money that in any coupleship could be spent without any concern that it's going to break the bank or be used destructively. So the issue is not how large this is or how small it is. It's just having some resources that a person can spend. And it's important that it's worked into the budget, right? In a community education class that I do, I present a spending plan from First Step created by Marty Kurtz, CFP, that recommends every week that an amount of money is put into each partner's checking account, a separate checking account that each partner has. It's all worked into the budget, and that person can spend that money without any guilt that it's going to break the budget because it's already accounted for. So for many couples, it does work to have a joint checking account and then for each person to have their own separate checking account. Now, that still can be 3 joint accounts, but 2 of those accounts just basically are the spending money of the other partner. I find that works pretty well. The next item is to really work to understand your own style and comfort zone as a couple. And I've already, done a segue into this, that some couples pool all of their income and manage all of their money jointly, and it works just fine for them. Others feel much more comfortable having separate accounts, keeping their finances separate. I find keeping things separate very common in blended marriages. I mean, I've seen it to the point that the income, everything is kept separately, and each spouse just contributes a set amount, whether equal or proportional, to the joint account to run the household. And that can work great. There's just no right or no wrong way to do this, except the right way is what both partners can agree to, and the wrong way is where you don't have agreement. So it's important to keep this as a win-win, where both partners win and the coupleship wins. It's important to keep honesty and openness at the foundation of whatever you're creating, even though the management of the funds could be done separately. I hope that makes sense. Next is get the help that you need. All right, learning money management skills. We talked about taking classes, reading books, but this also goes to getting advice from financial planners, help from financial therapists that are specialists. And the good thing is that financial therapists exist right now. 15 years ago, when we first started talking about financial infidelity, there was no such thing as a financial therapist. Today, there are actually professionals that are certified as financial therapists. So support is really true, and it's especially true for couples who've got to heal from long-term patterns of financial infidelity, of the distrust and the dishonesty that's created there. So the more support that you can get in breaking this pattern, in helping keep one another accountable, in learning new competencies, the better. So finally, just accepting the fact and the reality that change is going to take time. This didn't occur overnight. Even though the financial infidelity may not have been going on for too long, the dynamics that potentially created that infidelity probably have been brewing for quite a while. Again, the money isn't the problem typically. The financial infidelity is the symptom of a much deeper problem within the coupleship and within each of you as partners. So this just isn't going to be solved overnight. It is not going to be a walk in the park, which is why so many of us just avoid conflicts when we have a hunch that something's going on with a partner. We can really run from those conflicts, and that makes perfect sense why a person would do that. So it takes both partners being willing to change. If one partner really wants to do the work and the other partner doesn't, well, that's going to be an additional roadblock, isn't it? It doesn't mean that the partnership will necessarily end, but it cannot bode well. And it also doesn't mean that the partner willing to do the work shouldn't do the work because the other one doesn't, right? This is about your journey. Remember, we talked about the U-turn of you can't do a thing about your partner's behavior. Not long-term. You probably can short-term. A person can guilt, manipulate, cajole somebody into a new behavior, almost anybody, for 30 days. We're talking about permanent solution here. So it takes both partners really willing to be honest and to look at this change. If your partner's not willing, well, you can do it. And you can be kind of the captain of your own ship, of your own change, and at least build a better life for yourself, certainly emotionally. So any steps that you take will be an investment in the partnership. Well, we've talked about how divorce is the most expensive financial disaster that can happen to people. It's the number one eroder of financial wealth. So getting the help you need, doing your work is going to take money. It's going to definitely take a commitment of time. It's going to change what is familiar. The good news is that typically it's an investment that pays huge dividends. So I would really encourage you to maybe adjust your spending in other areas, work into your budget the cost of getting the help you need and changing these behaviors. And for some people, they could come about quickly. I'm not saying that it absolutely is going to take a long time, but I would not expect for immediate miracles. Well, I'm a day brightener, aren't I? So that's what I have to say. I didn't know when I wandered into this topic it would be a 3-episode topic, but I think it deserves the attention because it is so common. So thank you for hanging in there with me and listening to this. I'd be interested in your thoughts, reflections. Would love to hear your stories about financial infidelity and how you overcame those. You can always email me at rick@rickkahler.com. So thank you, take care, and I look forward to being with you next time. Thanks for joining me, Rick Kahler, for another episode of Financial Therapy. It's not just about the money. This is where I combine the nuts and bolts of financial advice with the emotions that drive making them. Remember, every financial behavior, whether it appears illogical to you or others, makes perfect sense when we understand the underlying beliefs, feelings, and thoughts. Sign up for my weekly blog at financialawakenings.com. I hope you'll join me again for our next episode.